Winter is fast approaching and things around the globe are changing rapidly. Russia's nuclear doctrine just took a chilling turn. Ukraine has reignited as a flashpoint for global conflict. A new public health threat is raising increasing concern. And the possibility of a dock worker strike still looms on the horizon, threatening to cripple the already fragile supply chain. This perfect storm of geopolitical chaos could lead to shortages, skyrocketing prices, and a new wave of uncertainty. Are you ready for what's coming? Hey guys, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. We don't often do a midweek video, but there has been a lot happening around the globe in the last few days. Things are changing rapidly. Maybe by the time this video comes out, they may have even changed again, hopefully for the better. We always pray for the best, but prepare for the worst. And we have seen a huge influx of people preparing for the worst right now, whether they're getting started for the first time or reevaluating and bulking up their existing preps. And right now we have the perfect situation. It's the perfect time to not only prepare better for ourselves, but also to help others. Because at this time of year, people are hunkering down and just about every business you can think of is running steep discounts. We can get more for less for ourselves and also grab some gifts for others. I know so many of us have young adult children or maybe aging parents that we worry about. If we can give the gift of preparedness, we give a little peace of mind not only for somebody else, but also for ourselves. In this video, I'm talking about my top picks this week, the must-have preps and survival items that I'm stocking up on ASAP and why. First, we're going to talk about food. It's critical to have food in your home to sustain you through without the outside world. But today, I'm going to get into some specifics about the what and the why. First, let's look at it from an economic standpoint. Although food prices are at an all-time high and we're all feeling the pinch for sure when we go to the grocery store, food is going to get more expensive. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, but it's also what makes food arguably the best investment that you can make. It's guaranteed to go up in value, and it's something that you will always need and always use. It feels really good to eat food today that was purchased for a much lower price than you would have had to pay for the same food today. I even know people who build food storage as part of their retirement plan, so they'll still be able to eat well in times of diminished income and sometimes failing health. So the two key things to remember here when it comes to investing in food are: one, to invest in food that can last a long time without losing quality or nutritional value, and two, buy low for the best return on your investment. Get the best prices you can get in today's market. We can't go back in time and buy food when it was cheaper, but we can be strategic about our purchases today. I'm going to circle back to this in a little bit, but first I want to talk about one more factor, and that's the quality of the food that we store. The state of the food supply in this country is downright scary. Over the last century, over 10,000 different chemicals have been introduced into our food supply here in the US. Many of these food additives are banned in other parts of the world, like China and the European Union. They're banned because they're linked to things like cancer and neurological damage, reproductive issues, and behavioral issues in our children. Yet these things are allowed in our food. And many foods typically stored by preppers tend to be full of these toxic additives that are often used as preservatives to make food last longer. Another thing that has seemingly overtaken our food supply are GMOs and bioengineered food ingredients. In reality, these did not just appear in our food recently, but rather a change in labeling laws has made it more apparent that they are in there. And there are plenty of people who don't want them in their food. Now I want to talk specifically about wheat for a minute. Wheat is unavoidable when we talk about food and diet. Worldwide, almost half of the calories consumed by humans on Earth come from wheat and wheat products. We as Americans consume more wheat than any other grain, making it the country's most essential food staple. Think about it. If you've ever tried to eat low carb or gluten-free, you know that wheat products are everywhere. Up until recently, we didn't have genetically modified wheat, but recently both the FDA and the USDA have approved the first GMO wheat in the USA. There are a few more steps that need to be taken and to be gone through before we're going to see it hit the market, but it is coming and it's something to be aware of. The wheat supply has taken some hits in recent years for many different reasons, including drought. This new wheat has been modified with a gene from sunflower seeds to make it more drought tolerant. But what I think is more concerning is it's also been modified to be more resistant to herbicides like glyphosate and glufosinate, which are known to cause things like cancer and neurological damage. Those are things we definitely don't want in our food supply. So what does all this mean when it comes to our emergency food stockpile? We know the goals are to clean up and bulk up our food supply and stockpile long-term food that's higher in nutrition and free of chemicals, preservatives, and bioengineered ingredients as much as we can, while at the same time keeping the cost down as much as we can also. The sad reality is that it often costs more to eat healthy, and not everyone can afford to buy the healthier options all the time. But the more we can use our dollars to support the companies who keep these things out of their products, the more we can send a message to all of the other companies that we don't want this stuff in our food. If you look at a product that's sold here versus the same product that's sold, say, in Europe, they are selling it without all of the extra chemicals and junk. So it can be done if the food manufacturers feel enough pressure to change. Two of our favorite companies that we trust for supplying food that's free of all of those things that we don't want in the food are Azure Standard and ThriveLife. These are two companies that we use all the time in our home. We order from them every month. They are two great resources for not only clean food without the chemicals and the additives and the bioengineered ingredients, but they're great sources for food that's highly nutritious also, and that lasts a very long time so that you can build the best food supply you possibly can. ThriveLife is well known amongst the prepping community as the best freeze-dried food company in the industry. If you know much about freeze-dried food in general, you know that it's truly the most nutritious food out there because of the way that freeze-drying preserves nutrients. And if you know anything about the typical grocery supply chain, you know that the majority of nutrients in the fresh produce that you see in the grocery store deteriorates during the transport process to the store shelves. ThriveLife works with farms to begin processing the food that they freeze-dry within a few hours of being harvested to lock in the nutrition. And because they do this, they don't have to harvest it early, like most commercial produce is. The food is harvested at its most flavorful and most nutritious point, and then the nutrition is locked in immediately. So short of eating or freeze-drying your own food straight out of your own garden or the farmer's market maybe, you're not going to get more nutritious food than this. Because remember, whether you're buying from a commercial company or freeze-drying yourself, the quality of the food is going to depend on the quality of the food that goes in at the beginning of the process. ThriveLife cared enough to take control over that process by doing all their own freeze drying in-house, and they are one of the only, if not still the only company that does this. And they have very, very strict product standards. They allow no additives, no preservatives, no chemicals. No preservatives are needed because freeze drying really perfectly preserves the food without having to add anything. There are no chemicals in this food. In fact, they test their food before they process it to make sure that there are no traces of chemicals at all. Even an organic label can't guarantee you that. They don't allow GMOs, they don't allow genetically modified ingredients at all, and no mRNA technology. They have very clean, nutritious food. Like I mentioned, I order every month from this company, and I usually pick what I order from the monthly sales to get the most bang for my buck. But the reason that I'm bulking up and ordering more right now is because, like many companies, they do have a big Black Friday sale going on. So I know I can get a lot more for my money. And doing things like this over the last few years has really allowed me to build a good sized stockpile of a very good variety of clean, healthy foods. The next company I mentioned, Azure Standard, is a family-owned company specializing in natural, organic, and non-GMO foods and products. They pledge to only carry nutrient-rich foods that are minimally processed with no artificial preservatives, no additives, no GMOs, no MSG, no artificial colors or flavors. So basically, no chemicals here either. They operate as a bulk online retailer, and they keep their prices low all the time by purchasing large quantities of bulk food directly from producers, eliminating retail store overhead, and utilizing a drop delivery system to minimize transportation costs. They pass all the volume discounts they get on to the customers. They do also always have a selection of products on sale. Azure is a great place to buy bulk dry goods like rice, beans, lentils, and my favorite thing to buy here that I really want to highlight today is wheat. You can get whole wheat berries in many different varieties that you can store for decades, and it will never be genetically modified if you get it here. You can also get ground flours, but they don't store as long. The one difference with Azure versus ThriveLife is that ThriveLife's products are already packaged for long-term storage, and most of their products are going to last 25 years in the cans they come in without any loss of quality or nutrition. Azure Standard doesn't sell their products like that. My wheat and other items come in heavy paper sacks, so you do have to repackage it if you want to keep it for long-term storage. But They sell mason jars, buckets, gamma lids for the buckets. They also sell Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, so you can get all the tools that you need to package that for long-term storage right there. One more thing that these two companies do have in common is that you can save even more by buying in bulk. So if that's not within your budget, think about maybe gathering a group of like-minded friends or family members, somebody that you could go in together with and split bulk orders and cases so that everyone can save even more. And many preppers have found a benefit that they didn't expect after switching to healthier options like these. They're no longer buying emergency food or survival food that they're going to stick under the bed or in the back of the closet and forget about until it expires and then throw it away. Having a prepper pantry full of food that you feel good about eating every day leads to a more sustainable prepping lifestyle that doesn't require a lot of extra effort and expense, and it eliminates waste because everything can be rotated and used with your everyday food supply. Moving on from food, the next area that I'm focusing on this week is medicine. And I'm talking not so much about over-the-counter meds as I am about things that require a prescription. For the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, over-the-counter meds are nothing but symptom relievers, meaning they can make you feel better while your body heals and gets better, but they can't really make you get better. Whereas there are many meds that require a prescription that can save or sustain your life. Unfortunately, there are millions of people in the US who rely on prescription medications, whether on an ongoing daily basis or for brief periods of time to resolve an illness or infection. And the scary fact is that these medicines are one of the things most likely to be affected by supply chain breakdowns, and we know how fragile that is and how easily it can break down. The dock workers' strike from last month was halted temporarily, but they are still negotiating and the threat is still there. And that's only one of many factors that could affect our supply chain. And prescription medications that we rely on for our health or that could save our life are nothing to mess around with. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be stocking over-the-counter meds, not at all. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't also seek out natural and holistic alternatives. However, a well-rounded preparedness plan covers all these bases. It wasn't very long ago that preppers who wanted to have antibiotics on hand had to resort to medicines meant for aquarium fish or livestock. But we're fortunate enough today to have several companies who offer emergency supplies of antibiotics meant for actual humans and prescribed by actual doctors for emergency or backup use. Most of these companies now also offer backup supplies of daily prescription medications as well as rescue meds such as EpiPens. Covering this gap in our preps was one of the biggest feelings of relief for me. You can usually get a kit for each member of your family, and most companies even have kits for kids. Also, you are eligible to get a new kit each year, at least with the companies that we've worked with, even though the meds will last for much longer than 1 year. So you can build up whatever supply you feel comfortable with. Take a look at and evaluate your family's situation and needs in this area. I'm going to put some links down below to a few of the companies that I'm familiar with who offer this service and any coupon codes or Black Friday discounts that they're running, because this kind of prep is an investment, so you will want to save wherever you can. Third on my list for this week is to make sure that you have a backup heat source for your home. We are heading into winter, and even if you don't think that it can get really cold where you live, I can think of lots of instances where people thought the same thing and learned the hard way that we do need to expect the unexpected. If you have a wood heat source in your home, that's the best scenario in my opinion, but not everyone has a wood stove and not everyone can have one installed for one reason or another. So the next best thing is to have another backup heat source. The most common for indoor use are going to be propane heaters or kerosene heaters. Make sure you choose an indoor safe unit with safeguards like the Buddy propane heaters and the Dynaglow style kerosene heaters. And of course, I always recommend having an extra battery operated carbon monoxide detector with your preps no matter what. There are some deals I've found lately for these kind of heaters, and I will put them down in the video description if you are in the market for an emergency heater. Or if you'd like to gift one to someone this holiday season. I gifted my adult daughter one of the Buddy heaters as part of an emergency care package that I put together for her a while back. Keep in mind you don't have to heat your whole house in the event of a winter power outage. Concentrate on just enough BTUs to heat a smaller area that you can close off to contain the heat. Don't forget to account, though, for any areas where you have pipes that could freeze and be damaged or anything else like that. If a heater isn't in your budget, or even if it is, try to have some extra blankets on hand as well as a small tent that you can use to create a microclimate and trap body heat. You'll be thankful for a way to keep your family warm if you should need it this winter. And finally, I believe this is a good time for us to take stock and evaluate our CBRN gear and plan. CBRN stands for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. So this is gear and supplies to mitigate a situation of that type should it occur. At the very least, I feel every home should have heavy plastic sheeting and duct tape in their supplies for blocking off areas of the home or spots where contamination could enter. And there's also other uses for that as well. And a supply of potassium iodide pills. There is other protective gear that can be purchased as well, and whether or not you should have that depends on a lot of things, like your location, your budget, and where you are in your prepping journey. This should definitely not be one of the first things that you're worrying about. We call this part of our level 3 preps. That's something I haven't talked about in a while. The concept of thinking of your preps is falling into 3 levels. Level 1 being things that everyone needs and uses every day, emergency or not. So these are easy to rotate and justify purchasing. Things like food, water, and toiletries. Level 2 being things we don't use every day, but we will probably find occasional reasons to use for recreation or other things. This might be things like a camp stove, a power station, or antibiotics. And level 3 preps are those items that we will have absolutely no reason to use, barring serious disaster. Things like gas masks, for example. Level 3 preps should always be the last layer you add to your preparedness plan after everything else is accounted for. This is where I consider CBRN gear to fall, but in the current atmosphere, I do believe it warrants consideration. For anyone who is considering adding or upgrading this type of gear, Mira Safety is probably the best known company in this space, and it's someone that we've worked with before, and they do have some great Black Friday deals going on right now. I will put that down below if I can get their link to post. Their link has actually been censored from our post before, if that tells you anything right there. That's my list of the 4 areas I believe everyone should focus on this week and what I'm focusing on this week, both to prepare for the ever-changing landscape that we face and to make our dollar stretch a little bit further during these trying times. This is by no means an exhaustive list. There may be other items that you feel are a priority right now, but the fact is we need to remain vigilant and prepared, not out of fear, but simply out of common sense. By tackling the things we can control, we can eliminate a lot of the fear of what could happen if we know we're prepared to face it head on. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a black heart emoji down in the comments and check out this video next to see the basic emergency kit that I made to gift my daughter. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.